The Galactic Council's grand dining hall stretched 300 meters beneath crystalline domes that reflected distant nebulae. Ambassador Velcroth of the Draconian sovereignty sat rigid at the obsidian table, his scales shimmering emerald and gold under the artificial starlight. Beside him, his son Zekrith, barely 20 cycles old by human reckoning, trembled, tears streaming down his smaller, softer scales. Lincoln Hayes watched from across the table, his fork suspended halfway to his mouth. The human delegation had arrived on Station Harmony only 3 days prior, and already they'd witnessed more interstellar drama than a year's worth of Earth's political theater. But this was different. This wasn't posturing or negotiation tactics. This was a child in pain. The boy dishonors our lineage, Velcroth rumbled in galactic standard, his voice carrying the harmonics that made draconian speech so distinctive. He weeps like a hatchling fresh from the shell. Around the table, representatives from a dozen species shifted uncomfortably. The Zentari ambassadors' antennae drooped in what Lincoln had learned was sympathy. The crystalline Luminoth dimmed their internal light. Even the usually stoic Vrex delegation exchanged glances with their multifaceted eyes. Madeline Rodriguez, sitting 2 seats down from Lincoln, set down her glass with deliberate care. At 17, she was the youngest member of Earth's diplomatic corps, a prodigy in xenopsychology who'd somehow talked her way onto the mission. Lincoln had thought it was nepotism at first, her mother being Admiral Rodriguez, but 3 days of watching Madeline work had disabused him of that notion. Ambassador Velcroth, Madeline said, her voice carrying across the table with surprising authority for someone so young. May I ask how long you've been away from your homeworld? Velcroth's vertical pupils contracted. That is irrelevant, too. 3 years, Zekrith whispered, his voice breaking. 3 years since I saw Mother. Since I saw my clutch sisters. The ambassador's talons scraped against the table's surface, leaving shallow grooves in the otherwise unmarred obsidian. Control yourself. But Zekrith only wept harder, a keening sound that resonated in frequencies Lincoln felt in his chest rather than heard with his ears. Madeline stood, and Lincoln tensed. Protocol dictated that junior members of delegations didn't move during formal dinners without permission. But Madeline walked around the table with the kind of confidence that suggested she knew exactly what she was doing. She stopped beside Zekrith's chair and leaned down, whispering something Lincoln couldn't hear. The effect was instantaneous. Zekrith's keening stopped. His eyes, larger than a human's, with that distinctive draconian double lid, focused on Madeline with sudden intensity. What did you say to my son? Velcroth demanded, rising to his full height. Even hunched to fit beneath the dome, he towered over Madeline by nearly 2 meters. Madeline didn't flinch. I told him I understood. That he misses his sisters. That it's not weakness to miss your family. It's what makes us strong enough to leave them in the first place. Humans do not understand draconian family structures, Velcroth said, but his voice had lost some of its edge. Don't we? Madeline pulled out the chair beside Zekrith and sat, casual as anything. Lincoln wanted to applaud and drag her back to safety in equal measure. Ambassador, I've read 17 papers on draconian social development. Your species evolved from clutch layers. Hatchlings are raised collectively by multiple adult females, mothers, aunts, older sisters. The males protect the territory, but the females provide the emotional and social education. She turned to Zekrith. You've been away from that support structure for 3 years, during your most crucial developmental period. Your father has given you his strength, his discipline, his knowledge of the universe. But you've been missing the other half of your upbringing. Velcroth sat slowly, his massive form settling back into the reinforced chair. The entire dining hall had gone silent. On Earth, Madeline continued, we have a saying. It takes a village to raise a child. We're not so different from your people in that way. Children need more than one influence, more than one type of love. The sovereignty teaches self-reliance, Velcroth said, but it sounded more like a question than a statement. Self-reliance isn't the same as isolation, Lincoln found himself saying. All eyes turned to him, and he cleared his throat. I grew up with 3 sisters. They drove me crazy half the time, but they also taught me things my father never could. How to listen, how to read emotions, how to, he searched for the right words, how to be vulnerable without being weak. Madeline smiled at him. and Lincoln felt a warmth that had nothing to do with the temperature-controlled environment. My sisters, Zekrith said quietly, they would sing to me. Harmonies that taught me the history of our people, the names of our ancestors, the patterns of honor and duty. Father teaches me these things too, but he looked at Velcroth with desperate love in his eyes. It sounds different when they sing it. Velcroth was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice carried none of its earlier harshness. I thought I was making you strong, preparing you to be a credit to our line. You have, Zekrith said. But I am lonely, father. The Zentari ambassador's translator chirped. Perhaps, the insectoid alien said, this is why the Galactic Council insists on family rotations for young diplomats. Why we bring our youth here in groups, not singly. Humans are still learning your customs, Velcroth acknowledged. He looked at Madeline. But perhaps you understand more than we credited. Madeline shrugged. We're good at adaptation. It's kind of our thing. Over the next hour, the formal dinner transformed into something else entirely. Madeline asked Zekrith about his sisters, and he spoke of them with growing animation. The Zentari ambassadors shared stories of their own clutch bonds. The Luminoth demonstrated their people's group resonance meditation, meant to ease isolation. Lincoln watched Velcroth's expression soften as his son laughed for the first time since the dinner began. The ambassador caught Lincoln's eye and inclined his great head in acknowledgement. Later, as the delegations filed out, Velcroth stopped beside the human group. Your species is young to the stars, he said to Admiral Rodriguez. But you understand something many older races have forgotten. That strength and gentleness are not opposites. That showing emotion is not weakness. We've had a lot of practice making mistakes, the Admiral replied. We're still learning. As are we all. Velcroth placed a taloned hand on his son's shoulder. I will arrange for Zekrith to spend time with the Zentari youth delegation, and I will request family communications be prioritized. He just needed permission to miss them, Madeline said softly. To know that being homesick didn't make him a failure. Velcroth studied her with those ancient, intelligent eyes. You will make an exceptional ambassador one day, Madeline Rodriguez. She already is, Lincoln said, and meant it as they walked back to their quarters through Station Harmony's gleaming corridors. Madeline bumped Lincoln's shoulder with her own. Thanks for backing me up in there. You didn't need it. But you're welcome. He grinned. Though next time you decide to completely ignore protocol and potentially start an interstellar incident, maybe give me a heads up. Where's the fun in that? Behind them, through the crystal walls, they could see Zekrith walking beside his father. The young dragon's shoulders were straighter now, his head held higher. And for the first time since humanity had joined the Galactic Council, Lincoln understood what they brought to the stars, not superior technology or military might, but the simple, revolutionary idea that sometimes the bravest thing you could do was admit you needed help. That asking for connection wasn't weakness. It was the most human thing in the universe, and maybe, just maybe, it was what the galaxy needed too.